This is the iSteady Mobile Plus from Hohem. It's a gimbal for your smartphone. I've reviewed a few smartphone gimbals in the past and I've found most of them to be a bit underwhelming, but this one I really do like. In the box, we get a protective carrying case, paperwork, and what appears to be a snuff pouch, I think. Hell, I don't know. Here's the gimbal, and it comes with a mini tripod, which goes into a threaded 1/4-20 female mounting hole on the bottom of the gimbal handle. Also included is a USB-C charging cable, and that's it for unboxing, so let's see what this thing can do. Mounting your phone onto the gimbal is pretty straightforward. As you can see here, I have my phone in a protective case, and for good reason, but this gimbal works best if your phone is naked. Me, being the dummy that I am who never reads paperwork, used it with my phone a few times without balancing it at all, and had zero problems. But balancing the phone after you load it will definitely put less strain on the gimbal motors. The phone can also be placed in vertical mode just by flipping the clip, which will require a minimal amount of balancing, but it's fairly intuitive. The top of the mounting clip has a 1/4-20 female threaded mounting hole, which honestly isn't useful for much, as anything of any real considerable weight will throw off the balance of the gimbal. But I was able to mount a wireless mic receiver up there with no problems, and usage was not affected in the least. But if you do need to mount anything of any real significant weight, there is a second 1/4-20 female threaded mounting hole on the side of the gimbal handle. As far as getting steady shots, this gimbal does a great job. However, my phone's camera isn't the greatest and definitely the weakest link in this setup. It really makes me want to buy a better phone, but I'm kind of a tightwad, so this is what you gotta look at for this video. On a side note, if you have an action camera and you would like to use that with this gimbal instead, it can work with the proper adapter. Here I'm using a cheap generic action cam with this cheap generic adapter to fit with this gimbal. Just keep in mind that these action cams come in varying sizes, so I can't guarantee what will work and what won't work. Keep in mind that a minor disadvantage of using the action cam is that most of them have an extremely wide field of view. And as you can see here, the gimbal head is in my shot. For me, it was an easy enough workaround. I just tilted the gimbal forward and held it like a flashlight, which was naturally more comfortable for me anyway. So it really wasn't that big of a deal, but it's definitely something to be aware of. One advantage of using an action cam over the phone is that you can use the full-sized USB port on the handle to charge external devices, prolonging the shoot time of your action cam. I couldn't do this with my phone as the charging port of the phone is covered while mounted in landscape mode. The handle has two built-in 1800 mAh batteries, and the battery charge is indicated by these 4 LEDs on the side of the handle. Using this exclusively as a gimbal without charging any external devices, Hohem claims that you can get up to 13 hours of battery life from this device, which, in my testing, seems to check out. On another side note, I was able to get some pretty creative shots with this gimbal by using one of these cheap light stands as a tripod and extension pole combo. Just keep in mind that the longer the pole, the more the gimbal will struggle and swing with tracking shots. And I'll cover more on tracking shots in this video later. As far as physical gimbal controls go, at the bottom here, we have a record button. This is used to power on and off the device by holding it for a few seconds. This also allows one-button recording in the Hohem Joy phone app, but more on that later. Here is the mode button. Tapping this will cycle through the different gimbal modes as indicated by these lights here. PF is pan follow, which is the default mode and the one that I use the most, and it seemed to be the most intuitive for me. PTF, or pan tilt follow, is pretty much the same, but it will unlock the head and allow it to tilt up and down as you record. L locks the head entirely, and POV enables both pan and tilt, but also allows the camera to shift from side to side as well. I found POV to be the most challenging mode to use, but I could see where you could get some creative shots using this mode. A really cool feature of this button is that if you tap it 3 times quickly, the camera begins Inception mode, and it will start doing a slow spin, which will allow for some pretty cool shots. Here's the joystick, and with it you can manually pan and tilt the gimbal to really dial in your shots on the fly. It's comfortable, responsive, and fairly intuitive to use. You can use this slider to zoom in and out or adjust focus of the camera, but this slider only works with the Hohem Joy app. Again, more on that later. On the other side of the handle, we have this trigger, and if you give the trigger 2 quick taps, it will reset the gimbal position. And if you hold the trigger, it will enter sport mode, which will allow the gimbal to still float, albeit minimally, and this is good for giving some stability while still tracking fast action shots. If you really want to get more out of this gimbal, you can install the Hohem Joy app on your phone. To use it, you need to pair your phone to the gimbal via Bluetooth, and this will enable a few extra features from within the app. The most useful, in my opinion, is tracking. You can do facial tracking, and that's pretty useful for vlogging or just keeping a subject in frame. But you can also do object tracking, which will allow you to draw a box over an object on the screen, and the camera will automatically track the selected object. Tracking works pretty well, but if the tracked subject moves out of the frame too quickly, the app, of course, will lose the tracking. Also, if you do facial tracking while using the gimbal on an extension rod or selfie stick, you can expect the gimbal to swing a lot if you move the stick too quickly. Also, from within the Hohem Joy app, you are able to leverage the use of the zoom and focus rocker, as well as the one-touch recording button. We have some additional controls and configuration within the app, as well as camera settings options, but that's all pretty self-explanatory, and I'm not going to go too deeply into that. Over here you can see we have options to record in slow motion and take time-lapse video, and up here we have moments. These are quick little video recordings with presets. Most of these are not something I can see most video enthusiasts using, but Clone Me is kind of fun for a quick pick if you just can't get enough of yourself. Overall, I'm very pleased with the Hohem iSteady Mobile Plus. I think it really over-delivers, especially at its meager price tag of under $100. But I do want to point out that Hohem did send me this device to review for free, but I am in no way affiliated with them. Everything you've heard in this video is a fair and honest review, and it's all my opinion and mine alone. But that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.